Well, it's great to be home.
Where he just keeps coming. I mean, right there, Mark, that's good coverage, but that is really good effort by that nose guard. Twist on coming, but he just keeps great effort.
Just stay in the moment and chop. That's the key.
Thanks for tuning in to more college football talk on the Our-Lads Football Network. For the Rutgers Football Report with Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post, I'm your host, Greg DePalma, and the Rutgers 2021 season begins in just a couple of days. We're recording the show on Tuesday. Hopefully the weather, hopefully the rain, the hurricane will end early enough on Thursday. Expecting a good crowd, a raucous crowd, and Ryan, I can't wait.
Yeah, no, it's the vibe up here. I live maybe 20 minutes from Rutgers. The vibe up here is certainly a lot of excitement. It's hard to believe that Greg Schiano was hired. I think it was December 1st, 2019, and most fans have not seen him. They haven't seen him. I mean, they played 9 fanless games last year, 5 at home in an empty stadium. They've had events and stuff, but those are mostly for donors and boosters. Joe Scarlet Knight has not seen Greg Schiano, and he's been back for nearly 700 days. So very interesting. I think there's a lot of excitement for the game. You're right, the weather could steer some people away, but Rutgers Athletics already had their Greg Schiano promo, bring your poncho out, we need you kind of thing.
Yeah, I looked at the actual forecast, the national forecast on the Weather Channel, and it says, it's early, of course, 2 days out, but it says it's supposed to stop raining in the morning. That's what it says. It's supposed to be clear Thursday night.
Yeah. Sure. Rutgers sure doesn't want to play in a rainstorm game. If you've seen the way Sean Gleason, the offensive coordinator, calls plays, he just, look, it helps Isaiah Pacheco. They have a great running back. Their offensive line's probably a little bit better run blockers than they are pass blockers, but Sean Gleason likes to call double reverse flea flickers, so that's not really rain friendly.
And you never, when you're a 2-touchdown favorite, you don't want the conditions to affect the game, because that, the playing field shrinks as far as, the team that's clearly at the disadvantage wants there to be something to affect. How can the weather affect the game since we're not as good as the other team? That would be better for Temple. So hopefully the weather will stay away and it will be clear on Thursday night. And also for the fans, because even if the fans show up, anytime it rains, it can't be raucous. It's just not normal. You're not going to hear the fans like you would if it was a clear Thursday night.
I will tell you, I sat, just because it's Temple, I was in the press box, so I shouldn't say I sat. I was in the press box, but I covered a Rutgers Temple game in 2002 that was in as bad a weather as any football game I've ever been to. It was brutal. Rutgers lost the game, I want to say like 10-7.
Well, that must have been a good one.
Their field goal kicker missed like 3 field goals. Everybody, there were like 2,000 people there. The 2,000 people were drenched and cold and, miserable. I don't think that's going to be the case.
I hope not. I don't think so either. We'll talk about the matchup in a little bit. You actually spoke to Coach Schiano earlier this week, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I talked to him this week on the phone. Look, I thought it was interesting. He said he's very interested to see where Rutgers stacks up. He said he doesn't know if the COVID season, how much you can take from that. Like, was Rutgers really, better than those 3 teams they beat? Were they ahead of schedule? Were they not? He doesn't know what to make of it. And I thought it was an honest answer. Like, with all the kids that opted out last year and the limited amount of training that, remember the Big Ten canceled their season and they brought the season back, so it wasn't the normal preparation. So he's not real sure, honestly, what to make of last season. Like he said, the offensive line has to play much better than they did last year. He said they have to cut down on big plays. He said he thinks the home field will be a big thing. Rutgers, I looked it up. They lost 3 games by 1 score at home. And he thinks the crowd, he said they found ways to lose games at home. And he's really thinking the crowd will make the difference in those 1-score games. So, I talked to him. He seems cautiously optimistic. I think anybody who knows Greg Schiano knows you can't get him to look beyond 1 game. So I couldn't get him to say, there's a bowl hoax or whatnot. But certainly, he certainly likes that Rutgers will be one of the most experienced teams in the Big Ten. They're always one of the most prepared teams in the Big Ten, and maybe that can be their 2 advantages when they certainly aren't the most talented team.
Yeah, and I completely understand where he's coming from, especially when you take a look at what happened. Like, let's just say, for instance, in the Maryland game, if Maryland had their starting quarterback, and I'm not sure if he was injured or was out for COVID, but if they had their starting quarterback, I'm not sure Rutgers wins that football game. So, and that's just 1 game, obviously.
But I could make a very good argument that Rutgers should have beaten Michigan.
Exactly.
So, it's funny. This isn't Rutgers specific, Greg, but I have this argument with sports fans all the time on social media. Just because a game is winnable doesn't mean it's a win. You hope to win 65% of your winnable games. Like, if I said Rutgers has 6 winnable games, well, they're not going to go 6-0 in those winnable games. You hope to go 4-2, maybe 5-1.
That's why you have to win games you're not supposed to.
Correct.
Yeah. That's what levels the playing field. You have to do that.
People are always like, we should go to a bowl. We have 6 winnable games. And I was like, well, are you going to 6? And then the same thing in the NFL. Like, we should go to the playoffs. I count 10 wins on the schedule. Okay, well, you already eliminated 6 losses, so those 10 wins, are you going 10-0 or like?
I know. So. I it's long ago I stopped the whole schedule thing. So.
Oh, I like it. I just think when I go through, I make sure like, okay, Cowboys, I'm going to give them 1-1, or like, all right, I'm going to say they upset in Rutgers' case, I'm going to give them an upset of Northwestern, but odds are they ain't beating Northwestern and Maryland, so I'm going to give them 1-1 there. So,
and then it's a long season. Again, just like I said with Maryland, you don't know is their starting quarterback going to be out? How many injuries are they going to have?
Right. But that's the fun. The fun is to project.
Yeah, sure. So. And look, if you project with the Rutgers schedule, I think it says exactly what we talked about with Eric LeGrand last week, which is. You should be able to take care of the games, especially early on in the non-conference. And if you do that and you win a game or 2 that you're not projected to win, then, and yes, of course they're going to lose a game that they're not supposed to lose. We know that. Yeah. But there's definitely a hope. The schedule's there for 6 wins. It's there. It's possible. It could it be 7? Could it be 4? Absolutely. But 6 might be the average.
I'll say this about the schedule. I didn't bring this up to Greg when I was talking to him on the phone, but I know this just from being around Rutgers for as long as I was and knowing a lot of people at Rutgers then and still. This is not a Greg Schiano schedule. Chris Ash made this schedule. Chris Ash believed in regional rivalries. He wanted to play Temple. He wanted to play Syracuse. Chris Ash could have been the head coach at Syracuse. Most people would run from that game. Chris Ash scheduled Syracuse. He picked Rutgers over Syracuse in coaching hires and then wanted to play them. Most people would never do that. Too many what-ifs and all that kind of thing. This is not a Greg Schiano schedule. Greg Schiano much prefers, go out and play Washington. Go out and play somebody you're not recruiting against because the game just takes on so much more when it's regional. It means so much more to the donors. It means so much more to recruiting. This is not his ideal schedule. And there's a famous story around Rutgers that after they beat Michigan State in 2004 to open the season, and then they came back and had a huge – everybody's so excited.
I remember that.
Yes. Breakthrough. And then the next week they lost to New Hampshire.
I remember that.
And after that, Rutgers never played another CAA team again, right? I think it's the CAA, the really dominant FBS league that has Villanova.
Oh, here comes Delaware.
New Hampshire, and here comes Delaware, a national champion at that level. Again, a Chris Ass scheduling move because, whatever, regional football is what college football is all about. Not a fan. Again, I didn't bring this up to Greg, but I just know not a fan of this.
Yeah,
schedule.
especially when you're building the team the way Greg's trying to build it. Is you want to have at least one game in that non-conference schedule where you're the dog. You're not supposed to win. You're trying to do something and achieve something that your team can hang their hat on, and you can get recognized. Wow. And even if they don't win, wow. I mean, we really battled hard. This is a good measuring stick. This is good for coaching, the rest of the season. They don't have that. They're supposed to win all three of their non-conference games. That's a lot of pressure.
I'll give you two things. One, betting lines more than I do. Are they really going to be favored at Syracuse?
If Rutgers beats Temple and Syracuse looks like they did last year against Ohio, yes.
Wow. Okay, that surprises me. I would have thought Rutgers would be like a 2-point dog or something in that game. Okay,
yeah.
Better. Lines.
But again, now it's ifs. So, and we'll get into Temple in just a minute.
The second thing is, I don't know that I agree with you. I agree with you if you're Florida, maybe, and you're punching up with an off. You can afford a non-conference loss, so you want to do something. You want to play Ohio State or something and try to punch up and get some recognition. I think for as long as Rutgers is where it is, or maybe where it could be, and not at the very top, I think it's very key for Rutgers to go 3-0 in the non-conference schedule every year.
Like Kansas State?
I think it's going to be a scrape to get to 6-7 wins most years, at least for the next 5-6 years. So maybe he gets this thing really humming and they're a 10-win program every year. And then, yes, I agree with your philosophy. But for the time being, I think going 3-0 is really important in the schedule. They play enough Big Ten games against where they have 4 ranked opponents plus Michigan. They don't need any more exposure. I think it's really important. And it's funny, it's the exact opposite in Rutgers basketball. Steve Peichel plays nobody in the non-conference and counts on the conference schedule. And that's funny because that's where Rutgers could play. If Duke will play them, go play Duke in November. Who cares if you lose the game?
Maybe that's also, who knows, it could be a strategy that he'll eventually change. Because he's trying to gobble up as many wins as how important it is to gobble up those wins, those certain level. What do you call them? I don't even know what they call them nowadays. They have these new terms every year.
I think they're called, yeah.
Okay, so Temple. Now the matchup, and we're getting a couple of things to keep an eye on. Their quarterback, Dwan Mathis, okay, he started. He was the week 1 starting quarterback for Georgia last year, okay?
Whoa.
Now, the problem was he didn't play well. He was 8 for 17, 55 yards, no touchdowns or pick, and he only made 13 attempts the rest of the season. So he started, didn't work. He pretty much didn't play the rest of the season. He transferred. He's 6'5". He's a pro-style quarterback. He originally committed to Ohio State. So he has talent.
So there's talent here.
Okay, so that's, so keep an eye on that. He has talent. The backup is a true freshman. So if anything happens to the quarterback, and he's only a redshirt freshman himself, but if anything happens to him, the backup's a true freshman. They have 5 new startings on defense, including 2 transfers at corner. So that could be interesting, with Bo Melton. They're going to have some corner transfers. Unfortunately, Rutgers transfer corners aren't playing. One is out for the year and the other is out for the week. And Renee. 3 new starters on the defensive line, including Kentucky transfer and a Washington State transfer and a freshman. So that's good for Rutgers. Again, some transfers and a freshman on the defensive line. Their number 1 running back's a freshman who gained 67 yards last year. But their top 2 wide receivers, including Jaden Blue, especially Blue. Blue in 2019 had 95 receptions, 1,067 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Clearly the best player on the team. The defense is nowhere near as it was when it peaked under Matt Rule in 2016. It has slowly gone from like in the 50s last year all the way up to 88th. So the defense, don't look at this as your as what we had come to know Temple football for about 5 or 6 years. Collins, Rule, not that defense anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how they take advantage of that.
Rod Carey's their coach now. He did a really good job at Northern Illinois for a really long time.
Yeah, this is his 3rd year. They were 1-6 last year, but keep this in mind. Rod Carey, as a coach, has covered, if you're thinking about a close game, 28, 12-1. So on the road, and he was 2-2 last year on the road, covering. So for whatever reason, Rod Carey gets his teams prepared on the road. So we'll see if that matters. And here are some trends that are not going Rutgers' way this week. Temple has covered 4 straight versus the Big Ten. The road team in the Rutgers-Temple series has covered 4 straight. The dog in the Rutgers-Temple series is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5. All things that I'm sure is part of the reason Greg Schiano wants nothing to do with Temple. COVID hit Temple really hard last year. So it helped Rutgers. It decimated Temple. So you look at their 1-6 record. They played awful, but they were hit hard by. I mean, they had a 5th-string quarterback by the last game of the season. That's how hard COVID hit them. They had 9 different offensive linemen, played 70 snaps, and they lost their last 5 games by 24 points a game. So. Wow. It's a complete opposite. It's Rutgers maybe benefited from COVID, and Temple was just decimated by COVID. So what does that mean for the first?
And it sounds like Temple's a really young kind of they're hoping to have improved in the offseason kind of team. And Rutgers, I think I used this stat once before, brings back 20 of 22 starters and 92% of its offensive production, which is just a mind-boggling number. So, I mean, early in the season, that should favor the experience.
And they also have not just that, but they have an incredible number of 6-year seniors. 9. So they are a wealth of experience. That's why, and before I close up, that's kind of why when you were saying, and you opened up with Schiano, not sure what the team is, what do we have here? For me, it's just I look at the players, and I see Pacheco, and I see Melton, and I see Fadokasi, and they have good players. So I don't think the players are frauds. So there's no question. Rutgers has more talent than Temple. No question at all. But they play the game. And hopefully the weather doesn't get involved. And I expect it to myself. I kind of expect it to be, somewhere like a 2-touchdown kind of game most of the game. I think it's not going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be so close that we're going to be going, you got to be kidding me that we're not going to lose this game. But I think it's going to be just enough to make us a little nervous.
What's the spread? 13?
Yeah, 13.
So give me a pick.
Oh.
And do not make it 13.
No, I'll take I'll take Temple covering.
So what's the pick?
What do you want to give you a score or a number?
Yeah.
I'll say Rutgers 35-24.
Okay.
What about you?
I got Rutgers 28-10. I
hope you're right. And I'm wrong. But we'll see how that works out. Next week, as you mentioned, Syracuse, first road game. If you want to do a little bit of snooping on what's going on with Syracuse, they play Saturday at Ohio. The first game without Frank Solich in like 17 years. So we'll see how that goes for Ohio, a very solid MAC team. I haven't even looked at the line. I would guess that Ohio might actually, I think they might even be, I don't know if the line is like Ohio, like a point or two a dog, but not bad. It's not like it's like you would think that Syracuse would be some sort of a favorite in this one, but let's see. Where do I have Syracuse? Ohio. What do you think that? Well, you wouldn't know because you don't follow Ohio too much, right? You're not like a line
yeah,
guy.
no, yeah. I'm not a big gambler.
Ohio is a 1-point favorite. That's Saturday night.
So you're right. Rutgers will be favored against Syracuse if they win the game, which is it's hard to believe. I mean, Rutgers lost 26 big games in a row not that long ago. So
well, they say what happened though is I don't remember what. Let me see. Last year they killed the spread and the spread loves a good spread team. Let's see. Rutgers last year. Let's see, what were they against the spread? 2020 ATS 5-4, not as good as I thought they were. They were 4-0 as an away dog last year. That's where because they didn't, like you said, they lost a lot of those home games. That's probably where they lost a few of those spreads, but they covered all 4 on the road as a dog last year. All right, Ryan. Next week, we'll wrap up the Temple game and preview the Syracuse game, and maybe we'll have a guest, maybe we won't. Either way, we'll be here every week that there's a game or a game to talk about. So, Ryan, appreciate you stopping by, and we'll talk some NFL football tomorrow.
I just would like to give everybody check out my Rutgers football preview story on the Post website tomorrow and in the New York Post paper on Thursday.
Awesome.
So looking forward to wrapping up the game and looking forward to the next one.
Thanks, Ryan.